Well folks, I guess it's just time for a good old-fashioned dogfight. Welcome back to Super Robot Wars Original Generations. My name is Wrath Vantage, and we are beginning now with Scenario 6. We've got 3 new characters to go over, as well as another character that isn't going to be sticking around with us, so let's get to that right now. We will now begin with Giada Venerdi. By the way, say that last name 5 times fast. Giada comes to us with a really good melee stat, and he's one of the bulkier characters on Ryusei route, having one of the highest defense stats, if not the highest defense stat. He combines that with decent enough skill, below average evade, okay accuracy, and a not great range stat, which is unfortunate because he's not going to be getting out of a range exclusive mech for quite a while. Now we'll look into Giada's spirit list. His first spirit is Spirit. Yes, the Spirit. No, it does not sound better in Japanese. It's a high cost spirit at 40 cost, however Spirit is super useful. Gets 10 will for the character that uses it on themselves, so very good. He also comes with Accelerate at the usual 5 cost. Accelerate is of course a fantastic ability, and it's great that he has it. In a few levels, he's going to get access to Bullseye, a pretty expensive Bullseye at 20, but, you know, it's a really great spirit, you definitely like that. He also gets a very early access to Valor at level 15, and a low cost one as well at level 35 points. Then at level 23, he gets Faith. Faith is a full heal to any unit, and so that's decently useful. A little expensive at 40, but that's kind of the usual cost for Faith. And then he also has Resupply at level 34, that's his last spirit he gets, and that is a 50 cost spirit. Briefly again, Resupply is really good. I talked about it with Aya. It resupplies your energy, ammo, and does not give you a penalty like usual resupplying does. Again, I'll go over that once we get a resupply module. Finally, let's look at Giada's skills. Giada comes with Support Attack and Support Defend. Those are solid support skills as well. He comes with Counter. Counter, what it is it's a skill percentage proc where, and depending on how much higher your level is, the higher chance your counter will activate, and then it, on enemy phase, makes it so that you attack first instead of the enemy that is attacking you. So super useful, and he has hit and run just like Rai. So that's the basic parts of Giada. It's now time to talk about his overall unit viability. I have seen a few times on Reddit and some other places, and I think people really think Giada's good. I don't see it. I don't see it in any way, shape, or form. Giada is a unit that is so all over the place that he doesn't really do anything well, and is in a route like Ryusei route where there are way too many mouths to feed to get him those levels. Let's start with his stats. So he's a melee defense focused unit. Doesn't have that great of accuracy and has really bad evasion. So that would mean that he needs to be a super pilot, right? Well, here's the issue. On Ryusei route, you only get 1 super robot that you can swap between. You have 2 total, but 1 is locked to a specific character. So that certainly limits your overall utility. Then you get quite a few more once you get to the route merge, but there's lots of characters who really would like to be in one of those super robots, and so you're gonna have to pick Giada over a bunch of other characters. And what does Giada do better than them? He's got a really good defense stat. His defense stat isn't better than some other good super robot pilots. His melee stat is good, but it's not the best melee stat in the game, and then everything else. The other issue with Giada being a really good super robot pilot is that, and just a pilot in general, is that Giada is the only character, as far as I can remember, that has 0 access to any way possible to protect himself from damage. None. I complained about Rai not having flash or persist, but at least Rai has focus. Giada has nothing. Nothing. All he has is, he has Bullseye. That's great. I'm so happy that he has Bullseye. Some characters don't. It's high cost, but there's no way to keep him alive other than high defense. And simply put, against hard bosses, that's just not going to be sustainable. It's also not going to be sustainable against general enemies. So you're going to have to use Spirit. That's the thing that makes him maybe possible. So yeah, you use Spirit a bunch. That gets you, of course, defense, with the more higher your will. And he gains will really quick because he has short temperance. The more damage he takes, the quicker he gets more will. It's great. Yeah, it's so good. But here's the issue. Giada does not have the skills to be a super robot pilot. Counter's good. and support attack and support defend are great skills. So is hit and run, but not for a super robot. I guess it's good for a ranged one, but guess what? He's a melee focused unit. So like even putting him in a ranged focused super is, yeah, fine, I guess, but like it's just not, it doesn't really work in any reasonable way. Again, I'm gonna say this now before I keep ripping into Giada here, but I've personally never used him much farther past Ryusei route, and certainly on the combined route or Kyosuke, he gets the bench immediately. So maybe I'm not seeing it. I feel like I should just do a playthrough where my single goal is to invest in Giada and make him the best unit. But at least on Ryusei route, that one super robot, I do not see any reason not to have the character who comes with it and is kind of supposed to be in it be out of it, because that's one of the best super robot pilots in the game. And then in comparison to Laters, is he much better than, I'm just going to throw out character names here, is he better than Katina? No, because he doesn't have the additional utility that Katina has. And he doesn't have the skills. He doesn't have attacker. He doesn't have guard. He doesn't have potential. He doesn't have things that help keep him alive defensively, and no spirits to help him do that. And you may be saying, oh, well, he gets resupply at the end. That's a really, really good spirit. Sure, but it's not the best support spirit in the game. And then again, now he's a half support unit. It just doesn't make sense to me that he would ever be worth using long term, because at the end of the day, the end goal of him is getting resupply, so then he's a supporter, and that's what you're wasting a super robot slot on? That just doesn't make much sense to me. So I could see it. I could see building him as the super spirit user and having him, use guard and become this unkillable monster on defense. But there are so many other characters that can just do that at base and do so many other things as well. Defensive characters just don't really stand up too well and need to be doing something additional besides just being really bulky. And so Giada just sits here as a mediocre character that I truthfully believe there isn't a reason to invest in him, and so I'm going to be using him quite sparingly on this route, and I'm going to say it again. I apologize if you really think Giada is better, and I am going to do a playthrough sometime in the future and maybe make a video about it, about how good Giada is, but I just don't see it. But please let me know what you've seen with Giada that makes him so much better, but I just don't understand it. I will add one final thought here though as well. If Giada could be, in theory, in a two-seater pilot, then that could make up for him. Have somebody have focus, or a cheaper bullseye, or have persist or flash, or he could be the second-seater and not be the main pilot, but be able to use these nice spirits. Like, a lot of characters would appreciate having the additional ability to use Spirit, use Accelerate, have an early access to Valor, but that just isn't in OG1. And unfortunately, spoiler alert, Giada's not in a future game. This is his one and only game, I guess excluding the original OG1. And so at the end of the day, Giada maybe had a chance to be good in a future title, or maybe has a chance to be good in some other scene, but I just, again, don't see it. Let's now move on to Giada's lover, Garnet Sunday. Garnet is, without question, a support spirit user, and that is her main point. She has her growth style is SP oriented, she has support spirits, basically all her support spirits, and she has SP up to get quicker SP, but we'll go over that in more detail when we get into those specific things. Her stats are not good. She's got really bad melee, okay range, not good skill, not great defense. Her evasion's okay, and her accuracy's below average. These are just not great skill or stats. It's just not particularly amazing. But that's not her point. Her point is to be a great supporter. And so let's look at those good support spirits. She has Bless. Bless is awesome. If you can grant luck to any character, and so that means double money if you take out an enemy on that turn when you attack there. She also has Cheer, which means which you can grant anybody gain, which means that their next attack they will get double experience. Regardless of what happens, they'll get double experience, where you only get Bless only works if you get the kill and get the money from defeating an enemy. But 2 really great spirits, she has them at base, that's nice. She gets Focus Net at level 10, and then it's a cheap one as well, so that's pretty darn useful. Good for her. She also gets Trust. Trust, of course, heals 2,000 HP. Nice in a pinch at level 13. Pretty cheap at 20 as well. She gets Rouse. Rouse is a really good support spirit. It raises any unit on the field you can, or any character you want, gives them 10 SP. That's really useful for helping characters who need to get will right away, especially on some maps where like you're needing to take out big bosses right away. Using Rouse to help them get will quickly is really good. She also has Love at Final Spirit. Love is a very expensive spirit, but it's very good. If I'm not mistaken, Love casts Gain, Luck, Bullseye, Flash, Excel, and Valor, and Pierce. That's it, all 7 of those in one cast, and basically it's setting you up so that you can deal big damage and be not worried about getting killed. You also get lots of experience, and if you get the kill, you get lots of money. It's the super spirit of super spirits, and is great for fighting and taking on bosses. Hers is very expensive at 75, but at least it's there and is super useful. Finally, I will mention this, and I've been not mentioning twin spirits because most of them aren't that useful. Garnet does have a very useful twin spirit, although it is incredibly expensive. So twin spirits, to explain that, is that if you have 2 units that you can pair up, and I haven't been doing it so far because it's just not useful yet, but basically once you get to 110 will, if 2 units are within, I believe, 2 squares of each other, they can pair up, and then you can have both of them attack at once, and you can share spirits between a few. Some are multi-units if they're in a pair and stuff like that, like Excel works for both units, and I believe Gain and Bless also work for Gain and Luck, pardon me, both work on both units, and so that's really useful. But finally, her twin spirit is you can only use your twin spirit if you're twin together, and twin spirits also take SP from both units in order to use it. So it's a big cost, and so these need to be really good spirits to matter. A lot of them aren't, but Rally is really good. What Rally does is that every allied unit, if you use Rally, gains 5 will. So for endgame maps where you are not going to have a lot of enemies and you need to get a lot of will quickly in order to fight big bosses, just like Rouse, this is super useful, except it's for the entire units. Next, let's look at her skills. She has the skill Lucky. Yes, there's a skill called Lucky and a spirit called Luck. It's confusing, just get over it. Lucky is a character exclusive skill just like Telekinesis or Genius. What Lucky does is it's a percentage chance based solely on level, so it's a really low chance for her right now, where on enemy phase or on player phase, if you attack and it procs, it means that you are guaranteed to hit. That character is guaranteed to crit with their attack, and the enemy is guaranteed to miss. And it's completely independent of you hitting. It's completely independent of the enemy's chance of hitting you. If you proc Lucky, you're guaranteed to hit, guaranteed to crit, and guaranteed to avoid the next attack. So it can be quite useful, and it levels up throughout, and it gets all the way up to Lucky level 7 for Garnet. Garnet also has support attack, support defend, so that helps her in providing damage as well as tanking a hit or two for some of your more important units. And finally, she gets SP up. SP up just grants, as it says, additional SP for a unit. So if you want a support unit like Garnet to have more SP, just purchase SP up, and so she will naturally get additional SP at each of the levels that I've got listed up there for SP up. So this continues to fill into her support spirit user role, and so yes, more SP means that she's using more spirit. Lucky is kind of whatever on her, same with support attack and support defend. Nice that she has it, it can come in handy once in a while, but she's probably one of the worst support attack helpers in the game, so yeah, because her stats are just so unimpressive. Support defend, again, can help you protect better units, but yeah. Overall, Garnet is, unfortunately, she has really great support spirits. There's no doubt about it. However, you're going to soon get battleships, that each of these battleships, usually you have to deploy one of them per turn. And one of the battleships has access to cheer, Another one has access to Bless. Also, the other one has access to Rouse, and so just, it's hard to incentivize using support spirit users, especially if you can't stick them in a back pilot seat, or if they're not good as general units. And that's the problem with OG1. There are no multi-seaters, because yeah, Garnet would be useful to just have her sit in the back seat of a mech and just be able to use Bless and use Cheer and use all those nice spirits, and have access to Love would really help some units. But like Giada, Garnet is only available in this game, and so overall she's useful for using Cheer and Bless throughout all of Ryusei route, but generally speaking, avoid putting her into combat, because really, outside of giving her levels so that she can get spirits and stuff like that, I just don't really see much of a use of using Garnet a lot. She's useful for being a spirit, a battery, but other than that, I don't really think Garnet is worth using full-time. And finally, we've saved the best for last, Latuni Sabata. Latuni, on the surface, looking at her skills, is, well, for sure, there's no doubt about it, she has incredibly high evade. I believe if she doesn't have the highest evade, she's certainly number 2. So, and especially in the early game, she has the best evade of any character. So she is really good in super high evasion mechs, like this plane that she's in. She's probably never going to get hit, because she just has such good evasion. She comes with both high melee and range, however, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. She has Gunfighter, so she's going to have a better range stat, but overall, her melee and range, you can kind of use whichever one you want, or use her as a mixed attacker. There are lots of mechs in this game that are both mixed attackers and use both melee and ranged attacks. Starting now, looking at her spirits, she has Scan. Scan is mostly useless, but what it is it's only one cost, so it's not that big of a deal. What Scan does is you can scan any enemy on the field and then be able to look at its stats. You also can look at any enemy on the field once it attacks you, so yeah, it's whatever. It's kind of a waste of a slot, but truthfully, Latuni has such good spirits besides Scan that it's fine, including her other base skill, Focus. At 10 cost, with the evasion and accuracy boosting, that is fantastic, because that 10 cost is one of the best costs in the game, because that means that she can use it every turn when she has SP regen for 0 cost, which is fantastic. So she'll always be able to have her accuracy way up and her evasion way up. For a character who has this good of evasion, this basically makes Latuni untouchable. After that, she has Sense. Senses, you'll get that at level 8. 20 cost, Sense is really nice. You get to cast Bullseye and Flash just in one cast, so that's super useful for fighting bosses and highly dangerous enemies. She has Charge at level 15, also at 20 cost. Charge is an interesting spirit. Basically what it does is that you can move and use attack without post move that usually you can't use because it's a non-post move. You can use it with you cast Charge. Next up at level 25, she gets Valor at probably one of the highest costs in the game at 50. And then finally, her final spirit at level 32 is Enable. Now, this is a support spirit, and I just went on a tangent about how Giada tries to be a half support unit and be a main attacking unit. Now, Latuni is a much more consistent attacking unit than Giada, but also because Enable is one of the best spirits in the game. At a high cost at 70, she gets to make any unit on the field, of course allied, move again. That's it. It's literally dance. So, yeah. That's worth it. It's worth bringing her along just to get it so that she has Enable, so then she can make any unit on the field use it. And I honestly believe Latuni's probably the best character that has Enable, so that's really useful for her. Next up, looking at her skills, she has Support Attack and Support Defend. One note to make here is that Latuni is going to eventually get a bit of a character arc, and one major thing is going to change about her. You'll know what it is, I'll also mention it when it happens, but she can get to Support Attack, Support Defend level 3. Once that happens, though, for some reason, she loses Support Attack level 3, even if you got her to the level where she got to Support Attack level 3 and Support Defend level 3. Don't ask me, it is what it is. These are good spirits. Latuni has really good attacking stats and really good accuracy, so she actually makes really good use of both of support attack. Support defend, she's not as tanky, but it's useful, still useful. Gunfighter's great. Gunfighter raises your range damage every 2 levels and then every 3rd level, so at Gunfighter level 3, 6, and 9, you get an additional point of range. So that's super useful for even a character like Latuni who maybe is also using physical attacks. It gives her extra range on those physical attacks as long as they're not one range or map attacks. So that's super useful and really good for a ranged unit. She also has Genius, with Rai. Genius is super useful, gives her some additional stats. So that really just fills into all the things about Latuni, including evasion, and that finishes off the thing. Latuni is so accurate and has such good evasion that like she's just insanely useful. She's always dodging and is just pretty well guaranteed to usually not be a problem. Because she deals good damage, especially with Gunfighter, she certainly is the best of these 3 that show up as fighter pilots. Now, I will admit that Latuni becomes a little bit worse as the game goes on. Her high cost Valor certainly doesn't help in that, and then her final spirit being Enable, but even once you get there, because that support spirit in Enable is so useful, it's worth bringing her along consistently till the very end of the game and bring her just to be able to use Enable. And again, in the meantime, she's going to be such a good dodgy unit. She can help you with support attacking. She's going to hit really hard on the range. Finding her that right mech that is able to use her range as well as use her great evasion is certainly not going to be the easiest thing. There are a few candidates, but those mechs are in pretty high demand. But overall, Latuni is really, really, really solid and is definitely worth using and is going to be one of your more consistent characters here on Ryusei Route. And so now let's take a look at the F-28 Messer. Your eyes do not deceive you. This is in fact just a plane. And yeah, its stats reflect that. 2000 HP, I believe that is the lowest HP in the entire series. The 90 energy doesn't matter. 130 mobility though, that's really good. A good evasive character, not going to get hit all that often with that great mobility. 700 armor, that's going to save you from maybe some bullets, and that's about it. The 1000 cost is nice. If the thing blows up, it's only going to cost you $1,000. The 7 move is useful, and it is restricted to just flight. And so as you can see in their trains, S in the air, that's really good. A when attacking on the ground. C in water is not good. And if you ever were to go to space, it has a D in space. So yeah, it doesn't exactly do too well outside of being in the air. Looking at the F-28's attacks, Vulcan Cannon is borderline, if not completely useless. 1,000 damage, yeah, that's gonna be... that might even be doing 0 damage, or I guess you can't do 0 damage in this game outside of a shield, but yeah, it's not going to be doing a lot to really anything. The homing missile is decently useful. 1 to 5 range with post move is good, but 2200 attack is not going to be hitting hard. It is pretty cheap to upgrade though, so that's certainly something. But yeah, this is not going to be hitting too hard outside of pretty weak characters. The Messer is another one of the mechs here that is just filler until you get much better ones. So yeah, you're going to be stuck with it for a while, but once you get better mechs, you might as well, no matter who's in it, once you get a better mech, get your characters out of this thing, because really outside of the mobility and the evasion, this thing is just not going to be very useful. So now, with that lengthy explanation out of the way, we can do one more quick one. Let's talk about Kai here and the Gespent Mark II. The Gespent Mark II, the mass-produced version, as you can see there, the only difference is that its main final attack, instead of being the TK Ripper, is Jet Magnum. Jet Magnum's pretty good. It's 1 to 2 range, has 4,000 damage, and is post move. Does require 110 will though, so that's something that's not preferable. Kai, on the other hand, though, is a pretty solid unit. He comes with some pretty good skills, some really good spirits as well, and I think he has focus at base as well as bullseye. The one thing about Kai though is that you're probably not going to be wanting to feed him a bunch of the kills and experience here on this map. Just help him, use him as much as you can to make sure that you get the SR point. But other than that, you're going to be wanting to give your experience to your 3 fighter pilots here, as well as to eventually Ryusei and the rest of the crew are going to show up here. What I'm doing right now is I'm setting up the fighter pilot so that we can get support bonuses for Latuni, so having Giada and Garnet next to her to get those support bonuses, just so that we can get, as well as support attack and support defend bonuses as well. So as you saw there, none of the enemies ended up coming after us or attacking us this turn. I don't think they have any good post-move attacks, but because we're already set up in this triangle, we can use Homing Missile and get those support attacks with Latuni as well as Giada and Garnet, and so that's what we're going to do right now.
ちんたらやるのは性に合わねえんでな。よし、回避成功だ。地球連邦の犬が。また来てくれよ、お客さん。
決めなきゃ。
この機体では勝てんのか。力の差を教えてやる。
運だけじゃないわよ。
So what we're doing with Kai here is we're just moving him closer just to have him available to take some counterattacks here. We're going to proc the bullseye, or put the bullseye on him here. Just set him up right there and have him take down a few planes, hopefully, especially because he has bullseye. He's guaranteed to hit these guys, and because these planes are, well, they're planes, he should be able to take them down with machine guns. But most of these planes are going to go after our F-28 messers here, and so we're just going to have to do our best on enemy phase here. We got unlucky with Giada earlier, missing a 90, but that shouldn't really matter. They're unfortunately all going for Giada, which is fine, but he has some high will, so he's going to be able to, with the crit there, get the one-shot kill. So Giada's going to grab a bunch of kills here, and the other nice thing is that even if he does happen to get hit, Latuni can come in and assist for support defend, so that's all good. Those 30%, though, if you're lucky, they shouldn't matter. And then Latuni's going to now counterattack. This is why Latuni is really good. She has 0% chance to hit and 100% chance to, or 0% chance to be hit and 100% chance to counterattack here, and so that's great. And she is just wiping the floor with these pilots right now. Now that is from help from the support bonuses from Giada and Garnet, but look at how easily we've pretty much wiped the floor with most of those planes right before Ryusei and Rai and Aya show up. So all that's changed is that Ryusei can't be taken down, same as always, so just make sure you keep them pretty protected. You're more than likely not going to be worrying about that. So we're going to send Kai forward to take down some planes here, just so that we can get this done within the 4 turns, because it's going to be pretty darn close, and the planes are definitely going to have to make up for it. But here we go, let's show off Kai. So as you can see, Kai takes care of business there, and so now we're just going to move the rest of the SRX team forward, just to get them right in range. But kind of the main thing here is that the pilots are going to have to take out a majority of these enemies here to start. I should have probably used Excel and got Rai in there to do more damage and take out more of these planes. He definitely probably could have gotten in range and taken out that plane, and I could have sent Latuni fully forward here. I'm going to use Cheer with Garnet and cheer up Latuni here. Again, Latuni is going to be the main unit of these 3 that is going to be used long turn, just because of how good her evasion and accuracy are, and she's just a really solid unit throughout the whole game. As we've seen here with the focus boost, she's guaranteed to hit and 0 chance to be hit by these planes, so makes her really useful in these planes and other evasion based mechs like that. We're gonna also send in Giada here eventually. I'm just struggling with the controls there, as you can see, but Giada comes flying in. And again, this is the unfortunate part about Giada and not having focus off the top or bullseye, is that there's no way to keep him alive, as I mentioned. So you're going to have to deal with that 41% chance hit rate. It's not likely to happen, and he's got enough will right now where those planes probably aren't going to take him down. And we're just sending in, and Garnet's going to come in here and do cleanup here. 92% hit. Shouldn't miss, but you know, it is what it is. So this end phase is going to be pretty important here, as we have 3 more planes to go after us, and they should go after Latuni here. Excellent. Or nope, Giada, because I've got Giada out front, but because of Giada having so high spirit from using spirit, he should be able to take these guys down pretty easily. And so just the 1 plane remains, and should be a pretty easy. I believe I try to score the kill here with Ryusei, but he's just not going to have enough movement to pull it off, so I think I eventually decide to use the Tuni to take him out. Or do I use Kai? No, I think I use the Tuni. I should use the Tuni. Nope, I use Giada, because I think I had this idea that Giada was a good unit when I did this map. Giada takes down that plane fairly easily, and that is the SR point for Scenario 6.